players always say there's nothing like winning. There's nothing like winning Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and coming up in December, Saturdays too. There's nothing like it. Even when your team is not seen by the outside world as being a championship level team, Super Bowl contender, playoff contender. It's just something about all these guys working together for a week, kind of getting on the same page and executing and defying the odds. In this case, defying 11.5-point odds. They're 11.5-point underdogs last night in Philadelphia and winning the game. I was just excited for the Washington Commanders. I know it meant a lot to Ron Rivera. He lost his mother. You saw one of their captains, Terry McLaurin, and one of the best receivers in football from Ohio State. You heard his comments about it.
The Ohio State, right?
Of course. It was just great. Hey, what did you take away from that? I'm just curious. I thought about you as this game was winding down. So I really want to know what Trotter thinks about this. What did you think about it?
Well, several different things. Number one, as I always say to you every week, I don't understand people who bet on NFL games because it's crazy that you think you have it figured out and you really don't. You never do. At least I believe that. Or at least I'm not going to speak for anyone else. I'm going to speak for myself.
I thought this was a no judgment zone, first of all. I thought this was a no judgment zone. I didn't sit down here to feel bad about myself. I just want to let you know that, Jim.
I'm not judging.
Go ahead.
I'm just stating a fact that I personally could not bet on NFL games. Number one, because of where I work, but number two, because I would lose everything I own. That being said, it's funny. I texted a member of the Commanders organization today that I've known for a long time, and I said to him, you know, you guys have got a different type of resiliency about you. They've won 4 or 5 after those early struggles. And the only loss in these 5 games was by 3 points to a Minnesota club that has won 7 in a row. And that was a game in which the Commanders led by 10 in the second half. The other thing is to be able to do this at a time when organizationally all of this non-football stuff is going on and hovering over the franchise. I think it speaks to the character of the players. I think it speaks to the character of the coaching staff. And I think it speaks to the resiliency of this club, that it is able to set all of that stuff aside and the ugly early start, because as you know, Michael, it was ugly early. And to be able to turn it around and find their legs now, I think is a credit to Ron Rivera, to the players and everybody in that football organization.
Look, hey, Trotter, Ron Rivera is a good coach. We know that. And it's no surprise that the Washington Commanders have a good coach. That hasn't been their problem. They've had a lot of good coaches in the Daniel Snyder era. He just usually does something to mess it up where those coaches don't have everything they need to be successful. It might be interference from him. It might be interference from somebody he has put in charge. It could be those outside forces that you talk about. All sorts of things happen to Washington Commanders coaches. So Ron Rivera's been there in the 21st. We talked about this before. Rivera's been there in the 21st century. Marty Schottenheimer's been there in the 21st century. Mike Shanahan has been there. And they didn't even know what they had because they had Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel there too. So they had a lot of really talented coaches. But Rivera can coach. He's a good coach. And I think he's probably the man for this job right now. He has put up with a lot. He's put up with a lot from Snyder. And lest we forget, he's the one who had to be the face of it, whether he wanted to do it or not. He was the one who had to find his own defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, for calling January 6th at the Capitol a dust-up. So he had to get in front of that. He's the one who got emotional about the Carson Wentz criticism, said he stood on the table for Carson Wentz when Wentz was going through criticism again for his third franchise. But all that being said, and since he's a good coach, Trotter, and I can't speak for you, I'm not a good coach. Why can't he figure out, and why can't anybody in Washington figure out the last couple of years, they got their quarterback. They didn't have to trade for him. He's already there.
Because here's what happens as it relates to the quarterback position, Michael. We see a guy like Taylor Heinicke, and you see the good, But then typically, not last night, but typically there will be a play or two in the game that he makes and you go, why? Why?
Yeah.
And so what teams are always looking for and searching for is that quarterback where at the end of the game, they don't have to look back on those one or two plays and say why, but rather say, wow. Because as you know, with the elite quarterbacks, what they are paid for primarily, if we really want to boil it down, what do coaches always tell you? That NFL games will come down to 2 or 3 plays, 2 or 3 opportunities where you either make the play or you don't. And those franchise quarterbacks, the one that we talk about at that certain level, are the guys who typically make those plays. Taylor Heinicke is not known for making those plays, and I'm not taking anything away from him because I think right now he should remain the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders. And I've always liked his moxie since I saw him come in, a couple of years ago, or even, going back to Ron's time with him in Carolina. So I'm not dumping on him. I'm just saying the reason that they were looking for another quarterback is they wanted that quarterback when those 2 to 3 plays come up has a better than good chance of making those plays as opposed to not.
Okay, but here's the thing. I've come to this conclusion because I agree. I've heard a lot of people say that about Taylor Heinicke and others. And I just feel like those are rare birds. Okay? There aren't many of those guys in the league. Like I heard some people talking a couple weeks ago here about Mac Jones, and they were complaining about Mac Jones and saying, well, he just needs so much. The offensive line's got to be just right, and he's got to have the right play caller, and he's got to have weapons. And I'm thinking, that's most quarterbacks. It's most of them, and the ones who don't need that, they're probably going to Canton, and they're going to have a bust. And Jim Trotter is going to vote on their candidacy and is going to say, yes, put them through. Those are Hall of Fame type individuals. Most of them, even the very good ones, need a lot of help. Like Kirk Cousins is better than Taylor Heinicke, but he needs a lot of help, right? I mean, he's a good quarterback.
Sure.
And, you think about it, most of them do. Most of them in the AFC. If you look at the top teams in the AFC, NFC, we've been saying that constantly about Jimmy Garoppolo, how he needs help and how Ryan Tannehill needs help and needs to be managed. Derek Carr, most quarterbacks fit that bill. So Heinicke is not a difference maker. And until they get a difference maker, I'm talking about top 5 draft pick or something crazy happens and a Hall of Fame guy falls into their hands, go ahead and roll with them. My point, Jim, and I said this to Gary Carter, who's the biggest Washington Commanders fan I know. When they traded for Carson Wentz, I said, so why are they giving up capital for Carson Wentz when he's just maybe marginally better than Taylor Heinicke? I don't get it.
Well, I can answer that because I asked that question to some people there. And what I was told, and not now, but at the time, is that they really believed that Carson Wentz was closer to that Carson Wentz of near MVP of the MVP season, where he was in the running until he got hurt when the Eagles won that Super Bowl, than he was those last couple of years with the Eagles. And that's what they believed, and they believed that they could get that out of him. They were wrong. He's not that guy that I forgot what year that was. What was it, 19 maybe, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl? My math is off.
17. It was 17.
Yeah.
Think about how long ago. Okay.
Yeah.
That's 5 years. That Carson is gone.
Yeah.
We're not going to see him.
No, agreed. But they thought that they could get that guy. They loved everything about him. And I say that again, not my opinion, because I wouldn't have made the deal for him, but from people involved who told me about it, that's what they thought. They really liked Carson Wentz. And look, I'm of the belief, Taylor Heinicke, again, as I said to you, going back to his time in Carolina, when he's gotten opportunities, he's shown a lot of moxie. Now, does he make some mistakes at times? Yes, but every quarterback makes mistakes. But you always are looking at, or teams often are looking at, that other, the next shiny object, the one who has a little more, if you're talking cars, a little more. And in football, we would talk about arm talent and those sorts of things. And they always think they can find something better. Look, the reality is when you watch that team last night, these players believe in Taylor Heinicke, okay? He brings something to that club, and there's a lot to be said for that. So again, as I say to you, my opinion is you roll with him. You know, you roll with them for as long as you need to, or
That's
as
right.
long as they keep winning. You don't. Well, you know the old saying, and we hate cliches, and even as we teach our classes, we tell our students not to use them. But, you know, don't fix what ain't broken, you know?
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.